Hello, this is Craig from bitbox.co.uk. In this video I'm going to show you how to do a muddy pitch style base for your Blood Bowl miniatures. Of course this technique can also be used on stuff such as Guildball, and some of the techniques in this video could be used for any miniature really if you want sort of like a muddy sort of grassland base. So I've got a 32mm base here, this is how we're going to make a base. To start with, I'm going to take some Sterland mud. So this is one of the Citadel texture paints, and I'm literally just going to apply it all over. Now I'm not too worried about getting it on like really smooth and covering up every part of the base with the texture. There may be some areas where the texture doesn't fully cover too well, but that doesn't matter. And we'll be putting a lot of other things on this base as well, which will cover up a lot of that. This is mainly just going to be the mud underneath our grass. I'm just applying it with just one of the spatulas. So I'm a big fan of the Citadel texture paints. I did make a review on these newer ones, which some of you may have already seen on the channel. One thing about these texture paints, I'm sorry if that's a little bit out of shot then. Doing stuff on camera can be annoying. But yeah, one thing about these texture paints, they do take a long time to dry. A good few hours at least. So that's why I'm actually filming this part of the video now, and I'll probably film the rest of it tomorrow. That'll give this plenty of time to dry before we can move on to the next steps. With this texture paint now completely dry, I'm going to add an all over shade wash of Nuln oil. So this will darken it considerably, but also gives us some nice shade in all the recesses. So now the shade wash is dried. You can see it's left the base looking quite dark, so it's time to brighten it up a little bit. And we're going to take some Sylvaneth back. So this is a dry compound from Citadel. So as you've probably guessed, we are going to dry brush this on. And this will catch all of those raised areas. This essentially gives us a basis of our mud on the base. So next up, we're going to add a few sort of like puddles really to this mud. Maybe some areas where it's like really muddy and wet. And if you see on the base sometimes with these texture paints you get little areas like this where the texture doesn't quite cover, and sometimes that can be a bit of a pain. I like to cover them up with grass tufts, but in this for this base we literally can use them to our advantage, so that's what we're going to do in this step. So what you choose to use in this stage is entirely up to you. You can use PVA glue as long as it dries clear. You can also use like some water effects. I'm actually going to use some of this stuff. Let me get on shot. It's triple thick. It's basically quite a thick gloss varnish. It makes really good water effect for sort of shadow puddles and such. So I'm going to try it out on this base. So I've literally just poured it out on my palette, and I'm just going to put it on there. This will dry clear, so don't worry about the sort of bluish hue. And I'm just going to place it in random areas. So this will represent, as I said before, just sort of like really sort of muddy puddles, or at least sort of give that impression. do just a little bit around here. So again, you'll need to give this plenty of time to dry. So for drying times, we'll make these bases time consuming. I've put on quite a bit there. Obviously, you can vary how much or how little you do. We are going to be going over a lot of this with grass, so it doesn't really matter too much at this stage if you do too much or too little of any effect. So yeah, I'm going to leave that to dry overnight before we do the next step. Okay, so I've given that plenty of time to dry. I did leave it overnight. Now you can see where that triple thick has been applied. It's quite sort of shiny and reflective, so it gives us a nice little water effect. Obviously, with the lights and the camera and that, it looks more reflective on video than it does to the eye. So next, we're going to apply some static grass. So any type of static grass, will do. I'm actually going to go for a fairly light static grass. I've got some in a box here. So I'm going to take some PVA glue, and we're going to apply this randomly. Now, how much you put on is entirely up to you. I will be covering some of these little paddle bits, but I want sort of a fair amount without covering the whole base, so we do want some of these areas left underneath. I'm going to try and make it as random as possible, so I think that might be enough. I realise I am doing this headshot, so yeah, you can see where the PVA glue is. Right, so I'll sprinkle on my static grass, and then give it a few taps, shake off excess. It's still quite done there, but that's pretty cool. So yeah, there's quite a lot on there. I watered quite a bit, but as you can see, we've still got. Let's get this box out of the way. As you can see, we've still got bits of mud and that showing through underneath, and there's still little puddles and such. So yeah, I quite like that. So there's just a couple of things left to do, but first I'm just going to let this completely dry. Okay, so now that the PVA glue is dried, we can add a little bit more detail to this base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint sort of a line going down there, and this will represent like some of the markings on the pitch. So to do that, take some white scar, and I'm going to use just a dry brush for this. Essentially, we're going to sort of overbrush this just on top of the static grass, and I'll just go off centre. Sort of go along like that, and by sort of using the dry brush and doing it like this, that sort of gives quite a good impression of the painted on line. Now you only really want it on the static grass. You can do a little bit on the mud, show where it's sort of faded in, but if you just keep it on the static grass, that'll look a bit more realistic. I've sort of gone slightly off centre. It's a bit hard to see on the camera, I think, because of the light, but yeah, from what I can see on the camera screen, it looks a little bit off white, but I assure you that that is white. And of course you can do any markings that you want. I'm just going to do a little bit, just a little bit more, just to brighten that up, just a little bit. So you could leave it there, or you could, if you so wish, add a little bit of blood on the base, and I'm going to use some blood for the blood god. Now I'm not going to go overboard with this. Well, I've got a few little specks, just here and there. After all, it is Bloodbowl, so it makes sense to have just a little bit of blood on the pitch. Maybe just do a little bit, maybe just over here, just a little bit. Odd little specks. Thought I won't go overboard. So all what's left now is just to paint the rim of the base, and I think I'm just going to do some Mornfang brown. Maybe go with a lighter brown for this one. Usually I tend to stick to darker colours or black, but I feel like just the black rim on this base just makes it feel just a little too dark. So here we have the base. So yeah, the Mornfang brown, that might look a little light for some people's tastes. You may want to go Rhinox hide or even a Baden black. As my miniature is going to be in quite bright armour, and that I think once that's on there, that should look quite nice. But yeah, that's it. It's simple as that. Just a very easy, quick and easy Blood Bowl base. Just show like a muddy pitch. So we have a bit of a turf, bit of a mud. We've got a white line on there as well, a bit of blood. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. As you get quite a lot of miniatures in the box, so it's nice to have a very simple base. Some of the drying times does make it a bit time consuming, but I quite like the overall effect. So I think this is the first basing tutorial that I've actually done on the channel. It is a very simple one, but I wouldn't mind doing some more bases in the future. Of course, if you have any suggestions for any bases or any painting tutorials that you'd like to see, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll certainly like to showcase and do some tutorials on some more advanced type bases, and maybe some other type of Blood Bowl bases. Be quite cool as well, so I'll probably be sure to do some of them in the future, as well as more painting tutorials. And if you want to keep up to date with all our future videos, you can subscribe to our channel. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.